Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the HoopsCrush podcast. This one is episode number 5. I'm joined, like always, by Brady Parks, aka Crushables, and I'm Eric Brandt, aka Hoops Jock. Uh, this is our first show since the regular season started. Our Blazers have played 4 games already. Um, most teams have played 3 or 4. How do you think just the season overall is going? Have you been enjoying watching the games?
Yeah, so before I get into that, we actually are recording this on Halloween. So if you guys probably won't see this till the next day. So I hope you guys had a fantastic Halloween. But other than that, just had to get that out of the way.
Yeah,
To be honest with you, through the first 4 games, the first 3 were kind of a rough watch, to be honest with you. I don't know. Like, I wasn't wanting us like win games by any like I want us to win, of course, but I wasn't expecting it. But like I also was wanting to be fun, and it just didn't feel very fun. But this Toronto game, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. So that's how I felt. I don't know how you felt, but like watching those first 3 games were kind of rough, and then that Toronto game, like I was like, man, this is what I want to see consistently, in my opinion.
mhm. Yeah, well, at least 2 of the first 3 games, like, we got down 20, 30 points, and it's like, "Oh, man, this sucks." Like, they
Yeah.
kinda made a comeback towards the end. If you're, like, worried about the spread or something, like, it was close to covering, but it's just yeah, it's not fun to watch a team down 20, 30 points and just look like they have all kinds of issues. But yeah, like this was the first game against the Raptors where you're like, wow, there's some things you could build on, and they looked like they were playing sort of the way they had talked about playing in the preseason.
Yeah, they were getting around, off in transition. I felt like Scoot was attacking a little bit more in this game, and they were just all over the place, which is what I wanted to see. I just felt like everything felt so slow and methodical, somewhat in those first 3 games, and
Yeah,
it
for
felt like
sure.
this team was getting out and running in this one, and that's what we want to see. This is like the kind of team that we think we should be. We should be a high-paced team. We should be going out and transition fast. Like that's what I want to see. It's a lot of fun to watch. And I'm happy to have seen it in the Toronto game. I just hope it carries over more often than not.
Yeah, what did you think of Scoot through 4 games, in particular
So
his performance tonight?
So obviously Scoot has not been great. He's not been like the player we wanted to see right away. And there was people out there, and there's still people out there saying, okay, he's terrible, he sucks, he's a bust or whatever. I was never in that camp. I mean, it's only 3 games, and or now 4, obviously. And I feel like each and every game he's gotten a little bit better. Especially in this one, obviously he's still not a great 3-point shooter whatsoever. I think he's only made 1 3 all season, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
0
But
for
I'm glad.
6 in the Toronto game.
Yeah, so he's not been great from that spot, and obviously he's had his moments, but his passing in the Toronto game was phenomenal in my opinion. He was out exactly what we wanted to see. He was attacking a little bit, and I felt like he's kind of ramped it up each and every game. First 3 were still a little rough, but I feel like the Toronto game he actually was really good, other than the 3-point shot, obviously. And I actually did take the over on Scoot's 10.5 points tonight. Well, as you guys are seeing this on the night of the Raptors game, so he brought me home some money. So thank you, Scoot,
Oh,
for
nice.
that. Yeah.
Were you a little worried in the first half?
Yeah, he ended the half with 8, so I was like, okay,
Oh,
he's
okay.
he's on
Yeah.
pace because it was only 10.5. So I was like, okay,
Uh-huh.
he can get. I feel like he can get 3 in the second half, and if he didn't hit that one free throw where he split, I wouldn't have gotten it. So I was like, he misses the first one. I'm like, oh boy, and then he makes
Yeah.
like one, thankfully.
Well, speaking of free throws, he had only shot 1 in the first 3 games. I think he shot, what, 4 tonight or 4 against the Raptors. So that was good to see him get to the line a couple times. And anytime you're that strong and that athletic, you need to kinda go into contact sometimes and make the refs, call something. I think that's something he could really learn in the future is just, learning how to absorb contact and, maybe getting some and ones or at least some trips to the line. Because most good to great players have some ability to get to the free throw line to get points that way.
Yeah, I agree. That's what we want to see. Scoot just needs to be in attack mode. I mean, obviously he's got to shoot at times because defense are going to allow him to, and we want to see him improve from that as much as he can from that this season. But his main focus should be attacking, trying to get to the free throw line, and seeing how much he can finish at the rim. So, If we can keep seeing that from Scoot, I'll be a happy man.
Hmm. And what do you think of his defense so far?
I
Have you
thought
noticed anything?
I mean, the only thing I feel like sometimes he's over aggressive, like he
Yeah,
fouls out too, or not.
right,
Yeah,
right.
he like gets a little too aggressive, but I'm
Mhm.
glad he's trying on that end at the very least. Like I can't remember exactly which game it was. It was against the Magic, I believe, where I think he gets a basket and then he's like all hyped up and just like gets overly aggressive on Franz Wagner for like no reason. I was like,
Yeah.
man, all right, just chill out. Like I get it, you're hyped
Hmm.
up, but like he's out there like I knew he was gonna foul. Like they were gonna call him eventually. And I was surprised they didn't call it earlier. I don't think they called it until he got to the rim. But yeah, I'm glad he's trying at least. But I think he's gotten over aggressive. Obviously, this led to some fouls. But it's good to at least see he cares about it. At least it looks like it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thanks for filling in for me on the Magic post game show. By the way,
Yeah,
you
I
did a
did my
great job.
best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, it was fun listening to you. But yeah, I think you're right. He is a little too aggressive at times, but I think the main thing with him is if you're aggressive like that, or you're always trying to like go fast and give lots of effort and run around. Like sometimes, like in the Toronto game, towards the end when he fouled out, you have just these vets that are just there to get under your skin and do things to like make you draw fouls. So like Schroeder just steps in front of him and flops down,
Yep.
and they call an offensive foul. And then earlier in the quarter, he had a moving screen called where I forgot who it was that he screened, maybe Siakam, but they like flailed like they got
Yeah,
hit
I
by a
remember that.
boulder or something, and like so yeah, you just got to be really careful if you're Scoot to not get put in positions where veterans take advantage of that aggressiveness and use it against you to draw fouls because like I'm saying that's a vet move to get to the free throw line. So if you're in the penalty or something and vets know that you're overplaying them and being physical, they can just use those crafty moves and get you into foul trouble and then get to the line in the penalty. So he's definitely got to be careful with that.
Yeah, when we were doing that, we did that action like 3 times in a row. Where
Mhm.
I forgot it was it Brogdon bringing it up? I can't remember exactly who was bringing it up.
No, it was Grant bringing it up
Yeah,
with
and then
Scoot
would
and
screen
Ayton.
screw would screen, and
Yeah,
then someone would run in the I can't remember. I don't know why I'm blanking on the players at the moment. But Scoot, the first time around it like worked, and then the second time he like got this screen, they called him for the foul, so
yeah,
that sucked. But yeah, it was
mhm,
cool to see them go to it 3 times in a row though. So I mean, it felt
right.
like we were actually trying to do something.
Yeah, it was cool, and then each time it like one part of it didn't work, so they went to the next part of
Hmm.
it, and so yeah, hopefully they can build off that, create some new wrinkles out of that offense. That'd be cool. What do you think of DeAndre Ayton against the Raptors?
Oh man, I think dominating was in full effect.
Yeah,
Absolutely killer on the boards. 23 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. Just absolutely everywhere on the court. I mean, he had a really nice block, I believe, in the first half. That I'm not sure a lot of people like really noticed because it was like just kind of really quick, and I forgot who it was,
uh,
but it was
yeah. Someone tried to post him up, and he
just
was it Pirtle, and he spun. It was either Pirtle or Siakam, and they spun to the baseline, and it looked like they were going to get an easy lay-in, and he just swatted it out of their
Yeah,
hand.
what? Yeah, like one of them, he just like swatted it right back to him. It was
Mhm.
awesome. So DeAndre Ayton, I mean, he's been good. There's been a lot of hate on him right now, but I think that's just because that's the popular thing to do. But in my opinion, he's been everything we could have wanted so far. Absolutely. The last 3 games, he's been amazing on the boards. First game was, not great for a lot of people. So, I mean, I think it was an all around just, bad game for everybody. But I mean, I feel like he's been pretty good for us. And I'm happy to see that what kind of production we get out of him so far.
Did you happen to see his post-game interview tonight?
Yeah. So I actually saw you guys talking about it, so I went to go watch it, and yeah, it was really cool to see him sound pretty. He was pretty happy.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I feel like he's, like, maturing a little bit, and
It does feel like that. Yeah.
I really hope that's the case 'cause, I don't know, like, if this game happened last year, even though he got 23 rebounds, I feel like he's still kind of upset that he wasn't part of the offense enough and only had 10 points and, should have had a lot more. But I think this time I feel like he thinks he helped contribute a lot even though he didn't score, and that's something that's encouraging to me because that's always been my biggest concern with him is that he'll get into these funks where if he's not getting force fed the ball, that like he'll let that affect other parts of his game and then linger into following games as well. But he seems to not be caring too much about his shot selection and stuff or his shot diet because like normally he would, I don't know, be demanding the ball or saying, even though we won tonight, like, oh, I need to I we won, but I could be a bigger part of the offense or something, and
Yeah.
so it's really encouraging to see him go out and be happy after a game, praise some of his teammates, like not talk anything about, not being happy or anything. So I think that's really good. And man, if he just keeps working on the boards and playing solid defense, that's really all you really want from him, right? Like you don't need him to be Embiid or something scoring 30 points a game. I mean, it'd be nice if he scored more, but like I don't think we have to force it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't know if there was something in Phoenix he didn't like. I don't know if he just didn't like the water or whatever it was. There was something in Phoenix that just wasn't clicking for him. I'm not sure. It sounds like him and Monty Williams didn't get along. And obviously he just wasn't happy there. And then when he first got here, I remember the first video that dropped, he sounds so happy to be here, which is something that I like. I felt like we never saw Deandre Ayton smile in Phoenix, and it was cool to see him smile like first day of being here, and that has carried over so far. And it's a good thing because there's been character issues, and it seems like so far at least that it's just been that maybe it was just he was unhappy in Phoenix all along, and he's just happy to be somewhere else, and it's not going to matter too much if he's scoring or not. He sounds like he's not caring about that enough, right? Or he's not caring about it too much at least, which is obviously not what we wanted, because it's more selfish than what you want out of your center. A guy like DeAndre Ayton so far, I've been very happy with what he's done for us.
I do wonder why James Jones and I don't know how much Vogel had to do with this, but that they didn't give him a shot to see how he'd do with a new coach before moving him for so little. So yeah, it's that might be one of those things. I mean, Nurk has been fine. I think he's a good fit there. But anytime you give up on a number one pick who you had really high hopes for, it's always curious to see or to hear why you just gave up on him so fast without even seeing if Monty and his butting of heads was the problem. But at least the Blazers get to benefit from it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, immediately he unfollowed what Katie and Devin Booker right away, so maybe it was a damaged relationship with them.
Yeah.
And then I remember we kind of talked about this where Aiden said uh, that the Suns fulfilled his request, so maybe he just like wanted out, like regardless, didn't
No,
care that
true.
there was a new coach in town. Like he was just like, okay, I'm done with this scenario. I want to be out of here. So maybe that was part of it, and also another part of it is maybe Phoenix is like, we don't want to pay you this much when obviously Beal, Booker, and Durant are going to be the vocal point of this offense, while you're going to have to just be a role playing center. So that there's probably a bunch of factors that went into that, most likely.
Yeah, man, if they would have signed and traded him that offseason instead of allowing Indiana to match that contract, I still wonder what would have happened there because they probably could have gotten Miles
Yep,
Turner
that would have been
that
pretty
summer,
awesome.
and that would have been an insane. Like if they had Miles Turner on top of KD and Beal and Booker right now, because they wouldn't have probably had to do anything um, like contract wise. They would have had all the same assets to make the KD and Booker or Beal trade. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big what if, but
Yeah, definitely. Miles Turner, someone, Collins and Miles Turner, two guys, in my opinion, have been in trade rumors forever.
mhm.
Collins obviously was finally moved. Miles Turner's trade rumors have shut down maybe just a little bit, but I'm assuming they'll creep back up. It also kind of depends how good the Pacers are once we near the deadline. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see Miles Turner in Phoenix. And honestly, I thought it was going to happen. I thought for sure that like there was going to be a sign and trade, but it never ended up happening. And I still thought I was going to be on the table potentially as well, but it sounded like the Pacers didn't want Ayton anymore. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it would have been interesting to see that happen if it did.
Hmm. So speaking of teams wanting other players, how are you feeling about the veterans on this team? Are you happy we have some vets that are playing and taking up minutes, or are you on the team where we need to move most of those guys before the deadline to free up some room?
So it's weird. So I think for the veterans, we would, probably put what Brogdon, Grant, and Thibault in that mix. Probably.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else I'm missing in there?
I mean, we can. Robert Williams is kind of on that
Yeah,
fence where he's
he's a
young
little bit in
enough
there.
to do that, but we do have Aiton if we're paying him. I don't know how much they're going to be able to figure out playing together and stuff. So I would maybe yeah, it's either way you could include him or not.
So, I mean, Thibault, I mean, I feel like his minutes have reduced quite a bit. So it kind of sucks, like, that we paid him this much money and his, like, minutes aren't even, like, that crazy. And then, as far as Jeremy Grant's concerned, it's going to be, I feel like for me, Jeremy Grant's, I'm going to have a love hate relationship with him all season as long as he's here, or, throughout whenever long he's here, because like I said on the post game show, the ISOs for Grant were annoying, and even in the first quarter, I remember one possession where Jeremy Grant had the ball like the whole time, and then like Siakam kept jabbing it away from him, and then Grant would pick
Yeah,
it back
yeah,
up. It like happened like twice, and then Grant took it to the rim and it went nowhere. But
yeah. He
Grant
airballed.
overall, he had a pretty good game tonight, still regardless. So like part of me likes that Grant is still here. Then the other part of me is like, ah, man, I can't wait till this guy is gone. Brogdon, on the other hand, he's actually been really good off the bench for us, and he was pretty clutch for us tonight as well. Probably a huge part of why we won this game. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to gauge. Like, do we want to keep them to try to win? But like, it doesn't. I feel like we also should just be trying to lose, even though we've been kind of doing that without trying. It feels like
Yeah,
so.
I don't think I have to try very hard.
Yeah, like it does feel like I have to try very hard. But I would still be on team moving them. That way we could let Shaedon Sharpe, and Shaedon Sharpe, like Scoot, Simons, or all the other young players, Kamar, like let their wings fly even more. So I would be on the camp of still moving them if I were to make that decision come trade
Mhm.
deadline. But overall, I've been pretty happy with like what Brogdon's been able to do. Although I will say he does dribble the ball a lot. It feels like, and doesn't pass like enough.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, they've been fine. Grant, I'm gonna again. Sometimes he annoys the hell out of me, but other times, he's been all right.
Brogdon and Grant definitely have some stretches where they're just trying to get theirs.
Yeah, definitely.
And that if you're trying to have like a ball movement and free flowing offense, it is kind of annoying to watch. Um, but yeah, they're really good players too. So like most good players do have their ISO moments. Um, so one thing that's happened since our last show that kind of ties into this, for me at least, for the conversation for Malcolm Brogdon, is our guy who we both love, Anthony Simons, um, ends up hurting his thumb in the first game. I think he played a lot of last year with a thumb injury. He had that like weird brace on it for a while, or that sleeve. Um, I was that last year or the year before? Maybe both. I don't remember off the top
I
of my
don't
head,
remember either, unfortunately.
but he did have a while where he was wearing something over his thumb, so I don't know if he re-injured that, in the first game, and then they just thought maybe, man, this isn't hasn't gotten better in a while. Let's have surgery, but it was just so disappointing because I felt like he had some really good moments in that first game, and then to see him go from probable to questionable to out 4 to 6 weeks
Yeah, that
within
sucks so
like
bad.
a span of about 15 hours or so. So what did you think first when you saw the news that he was going to be out that long, and then how that's going to impact the team moving forward?
So yeah, I was pretty upset to see it at first, and then I immediately tried to think of the positives, and I immediately turned, okay, Sharp gets his opportunity with Scoot, so Scoot and Sharp get to start like most people wanted, which I still love both of them obviously as well. So that was my main thought process. Like it's not like Simon's out for the season, so I know he'll be back eventually. So I was excited for Sharp to get the opportunity to start, and He's been great. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if we can get into that eventually, I'm sure, in this
Yeah, we're
episode,
gonna
but
talk about that later.
yeah, Sharp's been, we'll get to it. But yeah, Simons, I was sad, of course. Game one, he looks pretty good. The game ended, I don't even think he played his full minutes, it felt like. Maybe he did. I don't know. It didn't feel like he did anyway. But it sucked, man. At the end of the day, it sucks. But he'll be back. And then it'll be interesting to see what we do when he's back, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, because tying that back into Malcolm Brogdon, I think it looks fine right now because we don't have that fourth guard. I know Skylar Mays has played a little bit, but I'm talking about like the main guys. So, um, yeah, it's like it's easy to play Brogdon a lot and keep him happy right now, but we don't know how it would have played out for like multiple game stretches if you're trying to play four guards. Like, do you have to play a lot of three, maybe four guard lineups? Do you have to how do you shuffle that around, and how do you balance Brogdon taking over games at the end with Scoot and Sharp and Anthony probably needing to learn how to do that as well. And it probably sooner rather than later would be more beneficial. So yeah, I think ultimately they probably have to move Brogdon just to create that, unless one of the three are injured more long term. But yeah, for right now, while one of them's out, it's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when Brogdon's in the game, I feel like he's running the offense, and he's dribbling the ball a lot, maybe even over dribbling at times. And I just without Anthony, I just want to see like Scoot and Sharp take over that role and try to be able to do that. And even if they can't, they need to learn how to do that. And it's weird because Scoot is, I mean, he's a point guard. He should be able to set up the offense and do all that, but he hasn't really looked super comfortable, especially at the beginning of games, doing that. He's picked up his dribble a lot. He's thrown some really lazy passes across the court that have gotten picked off. He's lost the ball after the tip off in the first game. Like it seems like he's always kind of um I don't know, just stuck in like scared mode or something at the beginning of games. And hopefully this stretch in the Toronto game is something that he can build some confidence on. But it's just weird because we don't really have a dynamic or even like dependable set up the offense ball handler between those three that are playing right now without Anthony. And we see how a team could struggle on offense without that.
Yeah, I mean, even tonight when I was watching, like, I mean, it's already been happening anyways, but like, I was like, man, I wish Scoot was handling the ball right now because like Scoot would be
Yeah.
playing off of Brogdon a lot tonight when they were on the court together. I was like, I mean, I wish Scoot just had the ball right now. I just feel like having Scoot on the ball just sounds like a lot better, and it just like feels like what we should be doing. But it's been Brogdon more often, and I want Scoot to be challenged in that way, which is why when Simons is back, it is going to be weird to see what happens with these four guards. Like, I don't know how that's going to balance each other out. It's going to be very, very interesting. But one thing I will say is like if the Blazers' plan was to like have Brogdon show off that he's still really good. I mean, I think he's done that. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess like maybe his trade value is
Well,
boosted up now. I don't know.
yeah. Well, that was one of the problems this summer with his trade value is I know it was mostly because the Celtics demanded an answer right away without letting the Clippers do a full physical, but he was actually traded for the 30th pick in the draft and was kind of like a salary dump to the Clippers at bef- it was part of the Porzingis trade. But then the Clippers backed out because they didn't really like what they were seeing on the medicals, and they didn't have time to do the full physical. So from that point, it was almost like he had no value because um, like teams were scared of him, or like why would the Clippers deny that trade? They were basically given up nothing for him. So why would they not want to do that and take at least take a chance on him if they even thought he could remotely be healthy? So just the fact that he's been on the court, hasn't shown any signs of being injured. He has had some issues the last couple of years, but yeah, seeing him healthy on the court and playing decently enough, I think should definitely raise his trade value back to at least what it was when he was traded from Indiana to Boston, and that was what they got, a first round pick and a bunch of
Like
salary
bunch of
filler,
contracts, and
like
Aaron
Aaron
Nesmith was
Nesmith.
part of that trade, and now he
Yeah,
got extended. And he
yeah,
actually, Nesmith made a post, or he posted on his story the other day
yep.
about how someone was making fun of how the Celtics only gave up a paperclip for him. And he's like, I forgot exactly what Nesmith said, but he felt obviously disrespected. He's been
Mhm.
pretty solid in Indiana since he's gotten there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would like to think that Brogdon's value has gone up maybe a little bit, if not more than that, since he started playing. I mean, he's been pretty good for us off the bench. So I'm hoping. I mean, I think eventually he has to move. He's the guy that I've been saying this. I don't think there's any way he can stay past the deadline. It doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense to me if he does at all. Like it would make no sense.
Yeah. Well, I don't wanna spoil a future video for you, but what, if you were doing a video, like, let's just say we're, like, a month from now, Anthony's back, and, um, it's just not working out trying to play all 4 of them, and Broaden's only down to 20 minutes or something. Who are you, what are some of the teams you're looking at to move him to, and what are you looking to get back?
Brogdon, if I'm moving Brogdon, I would say Clippers would still be on the list because I think they're a team that still has a lot of expiring contracts and they have a couple first round picks as well. As far as another team, I think Philadelphia is still interesting because like Maxey has taken a jump so far. He's been done everything they could have wanted so far with the Harden thing going on. Maybe they'd value Brogdon as another guy that could somewhat replace Harden. So Philadelphia is interesting, although they don't have like a ton to give up. So I feel like a 3-team trade would have to be in that scenario. So I'm not really sure how that would work. I'm trying to think of some other teams at the top of my head for Brogdon that could make some sense. And I don't, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I can think of another one. Those are the two teams that immediately popped up in my head, but I'm sure I'm blanking on like an obvious destination. Maybe
Well,
like Miami. I don't know
yeah.
if we could do business with them,
I
but
know,
yeah,
it's so weird, like,
yeah,
would either Portland's front office or Miami's front office even pick up the phone right now
probably
if they
not.
called, or is it a situation where, like, they're professional enough to do what's best for their teams? Um, but yeah, I mean, it's so weird if we end up trading Brogdon to Miami. Like, that would just it would almost be fitting in a way.
It definitely would be. It would make some sense too. Miami, I think
Yeah.
getting Brogdon would be a guy that could help them. So
Yeah, I wonder if they'd want if there was a way to do, like, Brogdon and Lowry, or not Brogdon and Lowry, Brogdon and Thibault for, like, Lowry's expiring contract and picks or something.
oh, that would
Where
that wouldn't be a bad idea at all. I like it.
we already know what their asset pool is. Man,
Yeah, we definitely do.
let's get Orlando Robinson and Kyle Lowry and some picks,
Yeah.
uh, for those guys and call it a day.
Yeah,
I
I
some
that's not a bad idea. I actually like that idea.
Something tells me they're not gonna wanna trade with us, though,
No,
and we're not
probably
gonna wanna
not.
trade with them and just out of principle. It's like, I don't know how much you paid attention back then, but, so Kevin Pritchard, was the Blazers GM
hmm
for a while, and, he had, like, this really weird way he got fired, and he still Paul Allen made him do the draft still,
Yeah,
and
Rich actually taught me about this
yeah,
because yeah, but go ahead. I won't go too
uh,
deep into what I was gonna say.
yeah, but, so in 2017, when Paul George was getting traded, the Blazers actually had 3 first round picks in that draft,
Yep.
and,
Yep.
uh
That's exactly where I was gonna go with
yeah,
this.
and so they had, uh, the rumor is they called and offered all 3 firsts and anyone on the roster outside of, um, Dame, CJ, and Nurk, and, or Nurk might have been a free agent, so it might not have mattered, but, yeah, so, Indiana just Kevin Pritchard just refused to even
Yep.
trade with Portland because he just didn't want to like make a move or give Paul Allen Paul George. And so yeah, it's kind of funny. Like it does happen to where politics come into play.
Yep. I
But yeah,
actually I literally commented that exact thing on one of his videos. I
yeah,
forgot what it was, but I said, or I think it was one trade that we wish happened or something like that. And I was
yeah,
like, Paul
Paul,
George, like when he requested a trade, we had 3 first-round picks,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like I knew we were in on it, and then we didn't get him. And
Hmm.
I didn't know about the Pritchard thing at the time. I actually had no idea, and he
Yeah,
told me about it. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
yeah, and it's so weird because Oladipo had some good moments in the NBA, but I mean, he wasn't anything like
Mm-mm.
special or all-star level like he became in Indiana. And then Sabonis was coming off his rookie year where he didn't even play a whole lot, didn't really show much. I mean, he was okay, but like he wasn't uh like some sort like it wasn't anything close to what he is now or like showing that he could be such a dynamic big man. So like it was thought of at the time as like that's all they got for Paul George. Like they didn't even
Yeah,
get any picks. Like they got two guys who were kind of role players or whatever, or like
and
just
both of
like
them became
kind of
stars out of
guys.
nowhere.
Yeah, then they both become all-stars in Indiana, and it's crazy, but, like so you look back at that trade, and it's obviously a great trade, probably for both teams since OKC didn't do much with him, but they got that haul for him, including SGA, just for trading him to the Clippers, but,
And then the
uh
Pacers turned Sabonis into Halliburton.
yeah,
So
but, like, at the time, like, everyone was like, "Man, like, no other team could beat that offer? Like, that seems pretty weak," and so, yeah, it's you always wonder if it just didn't happen to be the one team that had a GM that didn't wanna trade with us, if 3 first in that loaded draft, and they had the 18th, 17th, or 18th pick, and they took TJ Leaf, which was a horrible pick too.
oh yeah, I can't
Uh,
even last long at all.
but yeah, you just when you like play GM, like I mean, you obviously do that on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So you just think about the Blazers were able to trade 15 and 20 and move up to 10, and then they would have still had 18 and 25. So they could have realistically ended up with like uh Donovan Mitchell at 10 or something, and then like John Collins or something or OG at 18, and then like Kyle Kuzma or something at 25. Like that would have been like a pretty big haul. And Mitchell is an all-star as well. So like I mean they would have gotten a player better than Oladipo potentially. Um so yeah, it's just weird to think about like how that could have changed the dynamic, and then how does Paul George play in Portland? Does he even stay after a year, or does he just bolt for LA like everyone thought he was gonna do at the time? So, yeah, it's always a weird dynamic when it comes to like GMs that have some sort of grudge against a certain team, and that definitely came into play this summer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, always be nice to your peers. If there's any lesson to learn from this, it's that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of the situation this summer, we've got Damian Lillard. Have you had a chance to watch any of his games yet?
I watched game one, of course. It was nationally televised. There was only 2 games on, so I watched that one. And what a night he had on that night. I did not watch. I think they've played what? Have they played 3 or 4 games? I
They
think they
played
played.
3
Okay,
as
I
of
was gonna
right
say
now.
they only played 3. I didn't watch the second game. They lost to the Hawks anyway, so it sounded like I didn't miss anything. And then tonight I watched like the very end, but
Mm.
I didn't like see anything too much.
Yeah, so he had one amazing game, one absolutely awful game for his standards, and then one kinda average game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the really bad game was surprising, just because like in Portland, at least, there was very few, like, even his bad nights were, like, close to 20 points. They weren't, like, 4 or 6 points or whatever,
Yeah.
so it's always shocking to see, a box score that includes him being so low, and I know a lot of it was they were getting blown out, and they had a back-to-back, so they just decided to pull the shoot early on that one. But yeah, it's still kind of jarring to see how bad he played in that one.
Yeah, in game one, he was electrifying. He was like literally, I think he made a bunch of Blazers fans sad that were watching the game because like this is what we were like, man. As I was watching it, like towards the end, I was like, man, I miss this guy so much on our team. Like he was hitting some clutch buckets. I'm like, that's what he
Yeah,
used to do here. Like I haven't really been that sad about it because I'm happy about him in Milwaukee. But watching him play that night, game one, and putting on a show in front of the whole world, I was like, probably watching that game.
yeah.
Wow! Breaking news: James Harden has been traded to the Los Angeles Clippers.
Let's go. We got something
Live
to talk
on the
about.
episode 1 of this HoopsCrush
What?
podcast.
Episode
Wow.
5?
All right, yeah, episode 5. Sorry, I don't know why I said episode 1 or whatever I said. I don't know. Episode 5, James Harden to the Clippers. The compensation has not been said yet, but Woj just broke it. That's pretty crazy.
It is the real Woj.
It is a real Woj. I'm
You
not getting
didn't
trolled
get
here. I
you
don't have
you didn't get ball
I don't have
oh, yeah.
notifications on for a fake Woj. So
Dude, yeah, I figured something was up because there's no way he was gonna play.
yeah, I mean if
Like, they said he was reconditioning or
yeah.
ramping up to playing or whatever, but there was no way he was playing. I was watching him against the Blazers on the bench, so I was like, "There's no chance." Alright, yeah,
Quick
so,
guess. Do you think Terrence Mann's in the trade?
uh, yes.
I think he is too. We'll see. We'll keep talking, and then as the conversation breaks,
Mhm.
because there's
I
nothing saying what it was, what the trade was yet.
Yeah. I don't Maury is the type that that's the Philadelphia GM. He's the type that I don't know, I'd be surprised if he just gave in and
Yeah, definitely.
didn't
He's
let them
stubborn as hell. We know
give a
that.
bunch of stuff up or all the things he's wanted. Um, what this does do though, because I'm assuming there's gonna have to be contract filler like Marcus Morris and stuff as well. So what that does do is give Philadelphia another big expiring contract potentially to move later on, and now they couldn't trade anything but a 2030 first. So if they got a first out of this trade, that does give them another asset to potentially use a Marcus Morris contract, combine it maybe with a couple other contracts they have,
And
and
then
go after someone at the deadline.
like Brogdon, send him our way. Send
Yes.
that Clippers pick to us, or I'm assuming they get a Clippers pick out of this
I
trade.
think I think Morris comes really close to matching Brogdon,
Yeah,
so
it's
they
like
wouldn't have to like a small contract or something. So yeah, Morris. So basically, they get if it's Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris, and a first or something. Let's just guess.
yeah.
Um, that would be they could basically give us Morris and a first for Brogdon eventually, and so it would be Mann and Brogdon for Harden. I don't think that's terrible.
No, it's not.
That's kinda similar to the Oladipo Sabonis thing we were talking about.
Yeah,
Well,
for
at
sure.
the time, obviously, Oladipo and Sabonis became better for Indiana than Brogdon and Man would be, but yeah. So,
One
yeah, we're
guy,
just
yeah, I was gonna wait till they say something, but one guy that I've been very happy to watch, which we said we were gonna talk about him a little bit earlier. Shaedon Sharpe. I mean,
okay.
I don't know when you wanted to get to that, but
Yeah.
like he has been phenomenal so far, in my opinion. Like I might be going, I don't know if that's a crazy word to say, but I think like we've always worried about his motor, and I feel like he's just been really good. Like I haven't had any concerns with him since seeing him play this season so far. I feel like his handle has even gotten a little bit better. He does lose it still at times, obviously, but like I feel
Mhm.
like he feels confident out there. He had a really nice move on OG Anunoby today that I really loved at the beginning. It was awesome. And then, I mean, I think he's averaging around like 19 right now. He's been everything that we could have wanted. I feel like he has shown up in a lot of places that we wanted to see him develop, and so many different areas. And I feel like he's done just that. And then also had that amazing block where he was above the rim tonight as well. Like, Shaedon Sharpe has been everything that I could have wanted so far. I feel like his development has really showed, and I'm very happy to have seen it so far.
Yeah, the only thing for me is just being a little more efficient.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
he has struggled to shoot the ball a little bit. But I don't think he's taken super bad shots. He's occasionally he gets like a little out of control on some of his fadeaways and steps way too far back. And it's like
Yeah.
such a he makes it so much harder than he is because I don't think he realizes that with how high he can jump, he can just elevate from where he is and get his shot up pretty much over anyone. So he doesn't need to have such a crazy step back or fadeaway shot. Like he could go into the defender more actually and then raise up and he probably get to the line a lot more. But that's something that'll come down the road for him that he still has several years to figure that out. But I've just been so impressed with the way he reads the game and reads the defense. And that was one of my biggest concerns about him, just understanding how to play and his feel for the game, without the experience of college basketball. And early on, he's a quiet guy, so some of his interviews, he wasn't very well spoken. At least in a pre-draft process and all that. So you were like, okay, does this guy just not like to talk, or does he not know like any of the answers to the questions about like what to do or like what a pick and roll is or whatever? And so like I'm so happy that those concerns are all gone because this guy has shown that he can learn on the fly and pick up things. I mean, this guy he didn't even look like he could pass the ball. Like, speaking of players that don't pass, like, I was starting to wonder if he would ever, like, even average, like, an assist a game at some point last year because he just, like, did not know how to pass. And then all of a sudden, he's, like, making advanced passing reads and stuff, and it's like, "How like, wait, what?"
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from? And now he's doing it consistently where he's actually, uh, I think it was the Magic game that I wasn't on the post game show for, but there were several possessions where like Scoot was finding him in the backcourt to bring up the ball, so Scoot could not have to get the pressure of initiating the offense, and Scoot or Sharp was having to take that burden on, and yeah, I think he's been I mean pretty much as good as you could ask for, given um all the pressure on him to be a ball handler at that young of age. It's a hard thing to do, as we've seen with Scoot, like Scoot not being able to handle a lot of pressure um, when he has the ball this year. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Very impressive out of Sharp.
Yeah, the ball handling has been the most impressive thing to me because I feel like last year he couldn't dribble at all, it felt like, or he would just always lose the ball. And again, he's still like, he's not like perfect by any means yet, but I think he's improved remotely, which is something I think a lot of us had concerns with, especially seeing him in Summer League. I think there were some concerns there as well, but like, I've just been very impressed with what I've seen through 4 games from Shaedon Sharpe so far.
hmm I would like to see them try to get him more shots, especially with Anthony out.
Yeah, I agree with
He only
that.
takes 10 shots against the Raptors. I just feel like we should be running some more offense and plays to get him more involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Not enough shots. 10 shots is not enough, especially as you said, Simons is out. Like, I know we have Grant Brogden, shooting as well, but Sharp should be the guy right now, in my opinion, shooting the most shots on the team.
hmm
Easily. There's no reason why he shouldn't be.
Yep. Instead, we got Brogdon
Yeah, Brogdon and
and
Grant.
Grant. Yeah, like just in a perfect world, we'd flip that, right? Like Sharp would be taking 21 shots a game and Brogden would be taking 10 or something.
Yep.
And I think that would be perfect. But yeah, I think it'll still come for Sharp. But yeah, I'd like to see them run a little bit more actions to force him get the ball. I don't think we need to do it for Aiton, but I think Sharp, like, I don't think he's unhappy with his shots like amount or anything. Like he just wants to play. But like I just want him to develop faster. So I want him to get these shots now and just keep shooting and stuff. So but I don't want him to force bad shots or anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. I
But
feel like he hasn't like forced shots too much. I think he's been playing kind of within the flow. Don't be wrong, sometimes he will, but like most of the
mhm.
time he's not really forcing anything, which is good in a way, but also, I mean, like you want him to be a little bit more aggressive. But I also do like he's just kind of playing the flow of things a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, still no.
No, yeah, no, nothing has been dropped by the details of the trade yet. I'm still waiting, but I haven't seen anything yet. Which I'm surprised by because what the
Right.
tweet came out
Usually
probably
they
like 10 minutes ago, and or maybe less than that. But
mhm.
Woj usually would follow with, blah 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 has been traded for, whatever. So we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of surprised by that.
So do you think Harden is a good move by the Clippers, or do you think that's gonna be like a dumpster fire?
It all depends on what they gave up. I'm assuming they didn't give up anything crazy.
Mhm.
But I mean, if you're Steve Ballmer, I don't hate it because you've invested so much to bring Kawhi and Paul George here, and you've got nothing out of it so far. What, a Western Conference Finals appearance one time? Did they even make, or I don't even think they made it to conference. Did they? Or no, they did in the bubble, right? Did they make it in the conference finals in the bubble?
No, bubble, they lost,
In the
was it the
second
first
round,
round?
wasn't it?
It was
I
either first or second round.
I thought in the bubble they made it to the second round or conference
Yeah.
finals, but I can't remember. Regardless, it hasn't ended up in a championship. That's the main
That
thing they
was
wanted.
pandemic P.
Yeah, no finals, no NBA finals either. So it has not worked out, which is why, Kawhi and Paul George both on player options. They could walk this season. I mean, both of them love LA, so I'm assuming they'd want to stay. And obviously, Ballmer has to decide whether or not he wants to resign those guys. Which I don't know. It kind of, I think it kind of depends on how this season goes, but you might as well just push your chips all in even further and see what happens. So, I mean, James Harden, I mean, next to Russell Westbrook, the fit, it's going to be weird. I feel like the fit is going to be a little weird in my opinion, but you got the star name, I guess. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, when the Lakers did that with Russ, it didn't work out so well. I think Russell Westbrook and with the Clippers has been fine, though. I think he's been pretty solid. But bringing James Harden into this equation where Harden's more of a ball handler as well, I don't know if you want to play Russell Westbrook off ball that much, but it should be interesting. I don't really know whether or not it's going to work, but I don't blame Ballmer and the Clippers for doing this. I don't, because again, might
Yeah.
as well just go for it. Like you're already this deep, might as well dig your, shoes even deeper.
I completely agree. Something we've mentioned on this show before, but I don't know if a lot of people remember this when we have conversations, but the Clippers' new arena is scheduled to open next season. So they absolutely don't want to lose Kawhi and Paul George and have like one of the worst teams in the league while they're trying to um, separate from the Lakers and have their own arena and not have to play or be second fiddle in their own stadium anymore. So I think that is a key, and we know Balmer is probably, maybe with the exception of the Warriors, probably cares the least about spending money and how much money it costs to win. So um, I think he just will, or I guess Matt Ishbia would be number one, right?
Yeah.
He came in and wanted to spend as much money as possible. But I think Ballmer's kind of in that same realm that if he thinks he can buy a championship, he absolutely would. So yeah, I don't mind it either, especially since you're probably not going to have to give up anything that was like a part of like a crucial part to winning a championship, so you might as well take that risk. It's just Harden's worn out his welcome in so many places, and they did have a Russell Westbrook James Harden duo in Houston, um, and Houston gave up a lot for him, and it actually there was all kinds of rumors that uh, Westbrook was mad about how much or what the lack of structure with Harden, and Harden always just wanted to freelance and go like one person on top and then four shooters in the corner and just play that way. And Westbrook wanted more set plays and things like that. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic, but we do know that Russell has been seemingly fit in and not really caused any problems and has been fine in kind of a lesser role with the Clippers so far, so much so that they were fine re-signing him. So yeah, I don't know. I think it could still work, and I think Harden's still a good enough player, and he won't have to be relied upon to be the man, short of injuries. So I think it's a really good move.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's worth the risk. Might as well take it. Obviously, Harden's had his problems with. I feel like a lot of guys he's played with. I mean, him and Chris Paul. There was a lot of rumors about them not getting along towards the end there. Russell Westbrook, as you said. I don't know for sure if there was problems between Kyrie and James Harden, but it kind of felt like there might have been. But at the same time, I don't know for sure. And of course,
Yeah, there
we
was because that's why he got traded to
yeah,
Philly because
because of Kyrie's availability.
yeah, he was mad that Kyrie wasn't more dedicated to,
Yeah, I mean,
playing and helping them win.
yeah, I mean the way things were going at that time, I can't really blame Harden. But at the same time, Harden's no saint either. He
Mhm.
has, obviously forced his way out of now two teams, so it's gonna be interesting him on the
Well, 3
Clippers.
teams basically
Or
because
yeah,
yeah,
Houston, then Brooklyn, and then Philly. So yeah,
Philly,
three
yeah.
teams. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he won't be able to. I'm assuming he won't cause as many problems in LA. I mean, I don't even think he can resign there anyway. So like, it's not like he can stay there and then cause problems. So, um, I mean, unless if he like signs a
He
cheaper deal, right? Can't or do they have? Because they're
no,
not having his
they
bird rights, right?
they do have his full bird rights because
Oh, they
he
do.
remember he
Okay.
accepted his player option. He's not on a one-year
Oh,
deal.
okay.
It's a continuation of his last contract, so it'll be enough years, I think. Plus, uh, it doesn't matter if you're making unless he was getting paid like they wanted to pay him like 50 million or whatever because
Yeah.
it's even no bird rights is like I don't know exactly what the percentage is off the top of my head in the new CBA, but in the previous one it was like 110% of what you made last year, and he's making 36 million, so they could still pay him even if they had no bird rights, almost $40 million. So so yeah, they could absolutely re-sign him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George were all free agents, how they would handle that. I mean, would Harden
Hmm.
resign for cheaper? I'm assuming he would have to.
Yeah,
Kawhi and Paul George depends. Again, it's gonna be interesting.
just don't lie
LA,
to him.
yeah, don't lie to him because he'll never play for you again.
That's yeah, it's so weird because like obviously you just laid out how he's forced his way out of 3 teams, and so I don't have really any sympathy for him, especially the way he handled it in
Yeah,
Houston at the end, and like he obviously was checked out. But if you're just looking at the Philly situation in a vacuum, I do kind of feel bad for him because this is a guy who could have opted out and signed like a max contract, and instead, um, he he takes less money so that they could sign PJ Tucker
yep.
and stay under the hard cap, and they got Daniel House too, which is a bad signing, but that was part of the equation as well. And then the allegedly the promise was that they would take care of him this offseason with a big contract, and then this offseason came and they were they realized that he, was kind of showing some signs of wearing down a little bit and didn't want to pay him a max anymore, and that I mean that sucks for you to take less money And that's why I'll never blame, like, people all the time say, like, "Oh, Dame should have taken less money in Portland so the team could have signed more players." Like, even if he took like 20 million less this season, it doesn't mean that the team's
Yep.
going to use that money wisely or use it at all. They might just pocket the savings and not go as far over the cap or into the tax or whatever. So I'm a fan of just not blaming anyone for taking the money, especially when you're a younger player. I mean, maybe when you're old as Harden is, and you want to win a championship or whatever, or prove that you can win a ring, you should probably maybe take a little bit less. But yeah, I kind of feel bad for him in Philly, but everything else he's done in his career is kind of
Yeah,
erased like
that's
me
true.
from feeling too bad for him.
So last thing that I saw, Brett Siegel tweets, there are no details as to what the James Harden trade revolves around yet player-wise, but one league source at Context said the deal is still being worked out. There is a possibility another team is included to take on unwarranted salaries. So,
Hmm.
that's interesting.
Is Brogdon going to be traded before we even?
Can he be traded right now? That would be interesting. We could just flip
Yeah.
him right now. That would be
Uh,
wild.
so Brogdon can be traded right now. See, when was that trade? It
Oh
was
man, the end of September. I
was
don't
it
remember exactly.
October? Well, the Dame trade is what, September 27th or 25th or something. And
I
then
Oh wait, I could tell you right now because I'm pretty sure I have this pinned on my. It was December or September 27th is when Dame was traded. So
yeah. So that was like a Wednesday. I think Brogdon trade happened like on a Sunday or something.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, 60 days if you want to combine it with anyone, but he can be traded by himself. Uh,
Do that
yeah,
one
so
rule. I forgot what it's called, but
yeah, like so any player you can trade by themselves like right away. But if you're like trying to combine him and Thibault or him and Grant or something, I mean Grant or Thibault can't be traded right now, but I was just using an example. Or if you wanted to, I guess Robert Williams was in the same trade. So if you wanted to include Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon in the same trade, you'd have to wait 60 days from whenever that trade became official. So it's not quite 60 days yet, but it's not too far away from happening. But I don't think they can combine them. I don't think they'll wait another couple weeks to make this trade official. So
yeah,
if it's Brogdon going out, it's probably by himself.
yeah. We probably won't get the details. It sounds like very soon. At least doesn't
Woj
sound
just
like.
woke up to a tweet saying, or like his phone is blowing up, and then he put it on silent, and he tweets out that Harden got traded, and then puts his phone back on silent.
Yeah, he's like, let the world think about what's happening, and then we'll see when the details come out. I guess I don't.
Hmm.
That's pretty interesting to have this happen right now. I will say that.
Yeah, it gave us something fun. I always love when we're on stream and it's like something happens, like breaking news like that. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was very
Our
cool.
first hoops crush experience with it.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
first time. I wish we would gotten the details, but
Yeah.
whatever.
All right, so we already mentioned one of the players we're going to talk about in this segment, but we're this the first inaugural segment of a part we are going to do hopefully every week, and that's called "Who's Crushing It." And so we're going to be talking about um, like a Blazer and then maybe a couple other players around the NBA that we think deserve to be talked about and that are playing well. So obviously, like everyone knows, like Luca and Steph and Jokic are killing it right now and are all in the MVP race and stuff, right? So like we can bring those players up, of course, if they do something special or if they just have an even better week than they normally have. But I think we're going to look at more players that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about, or just players that are having a breakout season, or what it may be. So Brady can feel free to use that however he wants to think for who's crushing it, and I'll have my own kind of version of it. But how many players do you have? Because we already talked. We're both going to talk about Shaedon Sharpe as our Blazer that's crushing it right now.
Yeah.
So we already talked about him. But how many do you have? Two other NBA players that are crushing it?
I just have one for
Okay.
today. Just
All
one. I
right.
just want to talk about one. So,
All right. So who's your guy?
mine is Brandon Miller. Brandon
Ah,
Miller
Brandon Miller.
to me has been really good because obviously the expectation, like I feel like he was getting a lot of crap obviously because of summer league and then just some other things. Obviously the Hornets taking him over Scoot, so Hornets are calling them stupid for taking Brandon Miller, and Brandon Miller's gonna be bust, he sucks, whatever. And to me he's been really good so far. 17 points per game on the season so far. On opening night he was a huge reason why they won that game in my opinion, where he hit 2 back-to-back threes that were absolutely huge. One of them was like a nice step back three. So Brandon Miller to me, and then tonight he had like 20, although they did lose. I think he ended up with like 23, if I'm not mistaken, maybe more than that. But Brandon Miller, for someone who was getting a lot of crap before the season started, and people were, again, just saying he was going to be a bust or whatever, he's terrible. He's not starting yet, but I'm thinking that's going to change very soon. Maybe they keep him in that bench role. They didn't start LaMelo right away either, though. So I guess this is how they do things. It's not the same coach, but I think Brandon Miller right now is my hoops crush at the moment because I just think he's been killing it so far.
Yeah, that's I
And
was
I wanted
not
to be
expecting.
different. I wanted to be different
Right.
as well, so I
I was
wanted to
not
go.
expecting you to go that way. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always weird when someone has a horrible summer league, and of course he also had a horrible NCAA tournament, and they got bounced, and uh, yeah, you begin to wonder. There's the legal stuff too, and like maybe this guy is just going to be one of those players that just is a cautionary tale of someone who had all this talent and was destined to be really good and made a really bad decision and was never really the same, um, and thought of the same. But yeah, I mean, it's still a small sample size, but it's cool to see that. A very similar thing I think happened with Jabari Smith last year, in that he struggled in summer league. He actually though got off to a pretty bad start in the regular season as well, but then started to come on at the end of the regular season. But by then, a lot of people had already made up their minds that he was a bust and was never going to amount to anything. So, yeah, I think it's cool to see when players that are that talented, um, like start to figure it out and play better when they're struggling and having horrible shooting. Like that guy's shot looks so nice, and like he was so good at shooting threes in college, including deep threes, like NBA range threes. So like it just doesn't make any sense when he struggles shooting the three or whatever and can't hit a three. It's not like Scoot where you expect him to not hit threes right away. Like that was one of the things that should have been an NBA ready skill for him. So yeah, it's cool to see when players actually like overcome some of that hate they get, and pressure of being the number two pick and having to live up to the always everyone comparing you to Scoot. Um, Trey Young is a guy who has had that his whole career because he was traded for Luca. So like anytime someone mentions one of them, it's always comparing them to the other and all that. So that's something Brandon Miller is going to have to live with. But yeah, it's good to see that he can actually play and is pretty good.
Yeah, the Hornets made the right decision. It looks like. No, I'm just kidding. That's going too
Oh,
quick.
wait,
No,
weren't you saying not over
no,
yet?
I've seen some people say that. That's why I said it. There's a lot of people saying that right now. Like, oh, the Hornets made the right decision. Scoot's terrible.
That's
That's why
funny.
I said it. I don't actually think that.
Yeah. What did you like Brandon Miller before the draft, or did you know
Uh,
anything about him?
no, I didn't know anything about it, to be honest with. I
Okay.
mean, obviously, I heard about him, and I would draft him in 2K because like people create draft classes of the
Yeah, for
college
sure.
guys coming in, and so I would draft him. Obviously, I would use him, but like I'm not gonna pretend and say here like Brandon Miller is someone I've been watching for years, and I was ready for him to come in the league. Now I just kind of learned about him as we got closer to the draft, so not no Brandon Miller fanatic by any means, but obviously learned about him as we got to the draft.
Yeah, the legal stuff was very disappointing, but up until like those question marks came up, that was like my favorite player to watch in college last year. And I I freaking loved his game. And I think he's gonna be like the next good wing on both ends. Kind of like a Paul George type player. I think he even said Paul George
Yeah,
was
it's
his
like
goat or
exactly what he
something.
looks up to. So
Yeah. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. It's just
yeah.
it's so weird with Charlotte and their all their off court problems and stuff that he just ends up on that team and they're the one team that takes him over Scoot and all that kind of stuff. It's just pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird that Charlotte's just always has something going on. It feels like
Yeah.
someone's always doing something. It feels like.
Yeah. I have two guys for my crushing it this week. One is someone we've already talked about on the show for a minute, and like he's probably going to be so good this year that um, he's not going to be a guy we should mention on here because he's too good for this segment. But that's Tyrese Maxey. I just have to give him his props. He's averaging 30.3 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 6.3 assists on 50% shooting, 56% from three, and 91.3% from the free throw line. This guy is just playing incredible. And that was one thing coming out of college. There were concerns about if he could shoot the ball and stuff, and if he could shoot in the NBA. And the fact that I mean, he shot over 40% from three last year, I think, and now is killing it off the bat this year. I think he's solidifying himself as, um, the next big guard, not big guard, but star guard in the NBA. And I think, fortunately for Philly fans, he's going to be the reason why Embiid doesn't
Yep.
request a trade or ask out because this guy is so good. He can pick up the pieces and then they'll get a few assets, whatever they end up getting, if we ever find out what
Yeah,
what
nothing still
what
happened. I'm
yeah.
so mad that I didn't even think to choose Maxi for most improved. Like that never even crossed my mind, and I don't know why. Like,
I mean, obviously, if he averages 30 points per game, he's
yeah,
probably
like if he
shooting.
does, yeah, he's got to win if he does that. So I don't know why it never even came across my mind. Like that would have been somebody I would have considered if I
Mhm.
thought about it, but I never did for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't like to pick players that are good. Like I know Jaw won it,
Yeah.
even though he was good the year before and didn't like his stats slightly improved. But yeah, I don't really like to do that.
I agree. It definitely sucks. I like it when it's someone random, like CJ, Laurie Marketing. Like those feel a lot better in my opinion when those happen.
Right. Yeah. How are you feeling about your picks overall so far?
For my awards,
Yeah.
not great. I don't think. I mean, Simons gets hurt, so
So,
that's the most
yeah.
improved. It goes down the drain. Six man Norman Powell. Honestly, I don't even know what Norman Powell has done so far. I haven't followed him enough. Cameron Thomas has looked like the six man so far,
Yeah.
but I don't know if the Nets will be good enough for him to be considered. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
feel particularly great, but we'll see what happens. Tatum
Uh,
might be okay, but we'll see.
yeah, and this is I mean, I don't think Ant can be Anthony Simons, sorry, or is when we're not talking about specifically the Blazers. I guess I have to specify
Yeah,
which Ant I'm talking about. But Anthony Simons, I don't think anyone expected him to come close to these numbers Maxi's putting up right now.
yeah.
But I was expecting him to take a big jump. So yeah, it's just unfortunate because I was right there with you with I think he would have solidified it himself, maybe as just a step below what Maxi's doing right now. And then my other guy I wanted to mention tonight is Jalen Duren. Is averaging 15 and a half points, 13 and a quarter rebounds, and 2 blocks a game, and has looked like one of the best up and coming centers in the NBA.
Yeah, he was someone I considered talking about as well. He's been amazing, man. He's been absolutely amazing for Detroit, and he is everything they could have dreamed of. Getting him and Ivy out of the same draft was a home run.
Yep. And then Cade's been looking pretty decent as well. I know they played Monday night. Didn't That game didn't go so well. Yeah.
But yeah, Jalen Duren, I mean, double machine so far on the season. I mean, he's been good, man. It's that simple. Jalen Duren has been phenomenal. He's been amazing. And I even saw today, like, he had a highlight where he he was the guy that handled it up top and still found a way to drive to the lane. So
Mm-hmm.
he's just got all the skills you could want for out of a big man. And that's someone that's gonna be a franchise center for Detroit for a long time, it feels like.
Man, like as well as Aiden's playing, I just keep thinking like if the Blazers had a slightly younger, more athletic, do it all forward or center like that, because that he can also pass and like you said, he can handle the ball a little bit. Defense is amazing, rebounding is amazing. Um, he's got a high field goal percentage, but maybe not the best mid-range to three-point shooter. Who knows if he can develop that part of his game eventually? But yeah, he's such a lob threat, such a good pick and roll target for Cade there, and yeah, the Blazers play them on Wednesday, so this video should be out Wednesday morning. And then we got the Blazers versus the Pistons later on today. So it's going to be, this is the first matchup because we did play Maxi, but Maxi doesn't run a ton of pick and rolls. He got a lot of his shots against the Blazers off kickouts and drives. But Cade and Duren are going to go pick and roll heavy against the Blazers, and it'll be really interesting to see how the Blazers defense holds up because they really haven't played any super heavy pick and roll teams yet. And that'll be their first true look at a team that runs it that much.
Yeah, Detroit should be a fun match. It is in Detroit, right? Yeah, because we're on a road trip right now. So,
it's the last of our 3-game road trip.
Yeah, I don't know. Detroit, I feel like Detroit's a really solid, underrated team. So that's going to be a tough one to see. But Toronto is another team that I had a little bit of respect for as well. So I can see it going either way. Should be a fun one. If Scoot can keep improving, anything's possible. But I'm excited. I want to see what we look like against a young team like Detroit. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we end this show?
Nope. Unfortunately, the Harden details have not dropped still at this moment. We could dissect that if it did, but unfortunately, it's not here. So
I see all kinds of jokes about it.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen.
Dan Favell says, by the time we get the James Harden trade details, James Harden may have already requested another trade.
Oh man, brutal. Now Tori's tweeting. Now Tori's breaking the news of James Harden's traded. Or no, the Los Angeles Clippers have traded James Harden to the Los Angeles Lakers. Oh, here's the details at the very end at the buzzer. The Sixers are acquiring Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, Robert Covington, KJ Martin, multiple draft picks. Or Kenyon Martin already traded. That's crazy. Multiple draft picks and a pick swap for James Harden, PJ Tucker, and Flip Petrusev. So,
wait, wow. They got PJ Tucker too?
Yeah, Clippers are getting both Harden and Tucker. That's actually really nice. So the Sixers get Marcus Morris, Batum, Covington, Kenyon Martin, and multiple draft picks and pick swaps. So we'll see what multiple draft picks means, if that's seconds or whatever.
Or did they give up both 28 and 2030 first just
And then also a
keep
pick
man?
swap. Oh yeah, because they kept
Picks.
man out of the trade.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
Dang, I wish we knew what the picks were. Damn, that's crazy. Instant reaction is that I feel like the Sixers. I feel like Nick Batum could. I think Nick Batum could contribute right away. Shams is now.
Covington back to the Sixers.
Yeah, Covington's back on the Sixers now, where he first started it. Everything. Didn't he? Yeah, I think he started his career in Philly. And then Shams now broke the trade, but he just has multiple draft picks as well. Wow, that's pretty wild. Kenyon Martin, Nick Batum, Covington, Morris. I mean, that's some role players that can help Philadelphia right away. I mean, I'm not sure if they'll all play minutes, but
KJ Martin's pretty underrated. I think he's going to be a good fit in Philly. Um, but I don't feel like this gives them a lot to help right now.
yeah,
So
I don't either.
I I th-
It does give them expiring contracts
yeah,
though, so
that's what we were talking about
that's a big
earlier.
thing there.
I think Covington, Batum, and Morris I think are all expiring, and that's 20
They also kept Norman Powell
almost.
out of the
Yeah,
trade, so Norman Powell wasn't even in the
that's
trade either. Wow.
those three are almost 40 million in salary. So that's a lot of stuff. And then if they got at least a first, they could potentially go after whatever the next star that becomes available. They have a little bit more firepower to do so with expirings and picks.
Yeah, I wonder who that star would be. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
interesting trade. I mean, they finally get Harden off the team. The drama was there clearly. It needed to be done. Curious to eventually see what multiple draft picks is. But it's an interesting trade. It's crazy we got to trade this early in the season, but I mean, I guess it was expected because of the Harden situation.
Yeah. I don't think he was ever certain that. But yeah, I mean, we just talked about Maxi. It's certainly possible that they see what he's doing right now without Harden, taking up possessions from him, and they were just like, you know what, let's just get rid of him and
Yep.
addition by subtraction. Maybe I think they're fine without him, but it's going to be hard to because they're a team that hasn't made it out of the second round in the post process era.
Yep.
So it's going to be hard to take that jump though without getting anything good back. So they could still make that follow up trade later on in the season, and that could help them into the playoffs. But if they don't make another follow up trade or a big trade between now and the February trade deadline, I I can't see just Maxi and Embiid and role players being enough to uh, get by some of the big hitters in the East, like Dame and Giannis and Milwaukee, and Brown, Tatum, Porzingis, and Drew Holiday in Boston. Like I still don't think they have enough to compete with either of those teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on what they turn those expiring contracts to. Because if the team is what they have right now going to the playoffs, I agree. I don't think it's enough.
Yeah. Wow, another
But
big. Gotta love the shakeups though in the NBA.
yeah, definitely gotta love them.
So
Western Conference is interesting now with
if
James Harden coming to Clippers. But
if you would have known about this trade before we did our standings, does it change where you would have had the Clippers?
where did I have them, like fifth seed or something like? I can't remember exactly where I had them,
I think
but
I had them fourth and you had them fifth. Yeah, something
yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. I don't hate it still. I mean,
Yeah,
especially if the load management starts happening with the Clippers, where it definitely could. I don't hate it. I'm not like upset with where I have them still. But them keeping Powell and Terrence Mann on the trade is huge for them. I'll say that.
yeah. How are you gonna feel if they gave up two firsts though
Oh
and a
man,
swap?
that feels like I mean, if Maury got that, shout out to Maury because man finds a way to get what he wants, I guess.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I get it. If you're Clippers, you want to go all in, but man, you're giving up even more if this doesn't work out.
Right.
But we'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Uh, I can always count on the Clippers to make a late night move that shakes
Yeah,
up the
for
NBA.
real. I woke up to the other one. I was awake for this one, I guess.
Yeah. Nice. Well, there that was really fun to give our instant reaction live. Yes. So
Yeah, this episode was all over
thanks,
the place.
Clippers.
Yeah.
I'm glad we actually had that because
We talked about the Blazers. We talked about
yeah,
Kevin Pritchard. We talked about James Harden being
yeah.
traded. We were all over the place, but it was fun
Yes.
still.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I can't wait to do it next week
Yep.
again. But yeah, this has been the Hoops Crush podcast. We appreciate everyone for watching. If you are enjoying the episodes, please be sure to not only subscribe to the channel, but also leave a like on the video. It's the easiest way to show your support. And we appreciate all the positive comments we've received on the shows. And thank you so much for taking the time to spend to watch our videos. And it's been really fun getting to know you a little bit and talking to you, Brady. So
Absolutely.
can't wait to do it again next week. And that'll do it for this episode. We will see you next week on the Hoops Crush podcast.